The harlots, her smoke rises up. And now we have a phrase that we're going to dedicate the last half of the class to. And that is, forever, her smoke rises up forever and ever. So the harlot is going to burn forever, and she's never going to go out. If we were real vengeful, we would say, serves her right. So now we need to dwell on the word forever, because it's also used in Revelation 20. So let's pursue that. What is the meaning of the expression forever and ever? Revelation 20 verse 10 tells us that not only the harlot, but Satan as well will be tormented in the fires of hell forever and ever. Now, although the word torment does not appear in verse 3, it says that the smoke rises up forever and ever. The word torment doesn't appear. It would be well at this point to take a look at the word as it appears in Revelation 20 verse 10 in the original language, because Revelation 20 verse 10 is in the purview of our study in this class. The Greek word for torment is basanizo. And there is no doubt that it refers to conscious torment. So there's no debate about the meaning of basanizo, torment. It is conscious torment. For example, the word is used in Revelation 12 verse 2 that describes the birth pangs of a woman who is having a baby. Let me ask you, is the torment quite literal? Is the pain quite literal? Oh, you better believe it. In Matthew chapter 8, verse 29, the evil spirits asked Jesus whether he had come to torment them before their time. Interesting. Does that involve psychological torment on the part of the evil spirits that encountered Jesus? Absolutely. A significant use of the word is in Revelation 9, verse 5. Here, we're told that the scorpions from the abyss are given command to torment men for 5 months. This is talking about conscious torment, because the scorpions are told not to kill, but to inflict pain and torment. So does the word torment mean real physical and psychological anguish? Absolutely. This word is also used in Revelation 18, verse 7, verse 10, and verse 15. The word there describes psychological and spiritual pain and anguish, as we studied, when Babylon realized that she is fallen and there's no redemption for her. There can be no doubt that conscious torment is intended in these particular verses. It is clear that the word basanizo in Revelation 20 verse 10 is graphically describing the future conscious torment of Satan in the fires of hell, and also all of his followers. Up to here, there is no problem, because the Bible consistently teaches that Satan and his angels, as well as the wicked, by the way, in the third angel's message, you can read it, will be tormented in the post-millennial lake of fire. However, a serious problem appears when we realize that Revelation chapter 20 verse 10 states that the torment will last how long? Forever and ever. Are we to understand that the pain and anguish of Satan is to last forever? That is to say, shall never cease? Perhaps it would be good to examine the idea behind the word forever in the New Testament. Several non-Adventist scholars have weighed in to explain that the word aion and the equivalent word in the Old Testament, cholam, does not necessarily mean something that occurs without end. Let's take a look at some of the comments by non-Adventist scholars. You know, many years ago, I was invited to speak at the seminary at Andrews University, and you know, I had mostly free time when I wasn't preaching, and the James White Library was there, a fantastic resource. So I said, why waste time? So I went to the library, and one thing that I wanted to study was what the scholars have to say about the word forever that is used in Revelation. And when I looked at the scholars, I was amazed that the scholars, non-Adventists, say that the word forever, which is aionios or aion in the New Testament and olam in the Old Testament, does not necessarily mean endless, never-ending. Now, I'm not going to read all of these statements. I'm only going to emphasize the underlined portions. You can read the entire statements, but we just don't have the time to read the entire statements. And you have them there. It is written. And so you can actually read the totality of them. But notice at the bottom of page 169, the word holam, which is exactly equivalent to the Greek word aion or aionios, this person says it refers to a lengthy duration or distant time. And then the quotation ends by saying it refers to as a lengthy duration. And then you'll notice at the end of this statement, this is the Expository Dictionary of Biblical Words by Thomas Nelson Publishers. It says that holam, the Old Testament word equivalent to the New Testament one, expresses the idea of continued, measurable existence rather than a state of being independent of temporal considerations. Are you understanding what it's saying? This is a non-Adventist scholar, by the way. The next statement, Alan McRae, says, neither the Hebrew nor the Greek word in itself contains the idea of endlessness. Praise the Lord for the non-Adventist scholars. Neither the Hebrew nor the Greek word in itself contains the idea of endlessness. And then he goes on to say that the word can also be used to point to a definite point in the past. The next statement by Moulton and Milligan, they actually prepared a concordance of the Greek New Testament. They stated, in general, the word depicts that of which the horizon is not in view. In other words, it depicts something whose end you cannot see yet. Whether the horizon be at an infinite distance, or whether it lies no further than the span of a Caesar's life. In other words, the word can be used to express the span of Caesar's life. And not necessarily endlessness, where it goes on forever and ever and never ends. In the next statement, we find that the scholar, this is actually Gerhard Kittel, the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, the person who wrote the article in this word book, says the following about the word. It represents a long but limited stretch of time. Once again, it can express the duration of the world. In other words, the word aion can be used to express the duration of the world. Limited by what? By creation and conclusion. Also, the writer of this article says aion is used to indicate two things that are profoundly antithetical. Namely, it can refer to the eternity of God, and it can also refer to the duration of the world. Are you catching the picture? And the next statement on page 171, the plural presupposes knowledge of a plurality of aions, or ages and periods of time, whose infinite series constitutes eternity. Thus, the idea of prolonged but not unending time is also present in the aion formulae. The concept of limited and non-limited time merge in the word aion. It's helpful to have these statements, because the scholars who are experts in the biblical languages are saying that the word aion and the Old Testament word olam do not necessarily mean endless and never-ending.